The Galactic Council chamber was older than memory. Not old in years, but in relevance. Built when stars were young and empires still believed permanence was possible. It floated in null space between spiral arms, anchored by gravity engines so ancient that no living species could fully explain them anymore. Light bent strangely within its walls, refracting through layers of atmosphere tailored for dozens of alien physiologies. Every civilization that mattered eventually stood here. Every civilization that didn't was remembered only in archived silence. Today, a new name appeared on the agenda: Earth. The hologram was small. That alone drew amusement. At the center of the chamber, above the obsidian speaking dais, a rotating projection showed a blue and white sphere orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. Population statistics scrolled beside it, economic output, military tonnage, FTL classification. The numbers were modest. Around the chamber, representatives reacted in their own ways. Some clicked their mandibles in open derision. Others released faint pulses of bioluminescent laughter. A few, elder species, simply closed secondary eyes, already bored. The Lyrian archivist shimmered faintly, her light patterns adjusting as she reviewed the data. An emergent species, she announced, unified only partially, planet-bound until recently, no prior council contact. Counselor Vethrix of the Cathal Combine leaned forward, chitin plates scraping against his ceremonial harness. They waited this long to announce themselves? He asked, voice translated into a dry hiss. How cautious? Or fearful, another delegate added. The chamber resonated with soft collective amusement. At the edge of the dais stood the representative of Earth. He was smaller than most beings in the chamber. No exoskeleton, no energy field, no ceremonial weapons or display of biological dominance. Just a man in a dark formal uniform. Ambassador Elias Rowe stood with his hands clasped behind his back, posture straight, breathing slow. He had trained for this moment for half his life. Nothing in that training prepared him for the sound of an entire galaxy laughing at his home. Ambassador, the presiding voice said, a harmonic entity whose speech manifested as layered tones, felt more than heard. State Earth's petition. Rowe stepped forward. Honored members of the Galactic Council, he began, voice steady. Earth seeks formal recognition as a sovereign civilization. We request neutral status, open trade corridors, and non-interference guarantees under Council law. The silence lasted less than a second. Then the laughter came back, louder this time. Neutral? Vethrix repeated incredulously. You exist in Valeri-adjacent space. Neutrality is a privilege earned through deterrence. Another voice chimed in. Your fleets are numerically insignificant. Your technology is inefficient. You fracture governance by ideology. Rowe listened. He did not interrupt. When the noise died down, he spoke again. We are aware of our limitations, but we are also aware of our value. Humanity has survived extinction-level events, internal conflicts, and environmental collapse. We adapt, we endure. The grave-mind elder shifted, stone plates grinding. Endurance is irrelevant without enforcement. The presiding voice resonated. The Council has reviewed Earth's petition. Deliberation is concluded. Rowe felt it before he heard it. This was not going to end well. By unanimous vote, the voice continued, Earth is denied sovereign recognition at this time. A pause. Additionally, pursuant to the Protectorate Reallocation Clause, oversight authority of the Sol system is granted to the Valeri Dominion. The chamber hummed with approval. Rowe's jaw tightened, but he did not speak. You will submit to administrative guidance. Tribute schedules will be transmitted. This session is adjourned. The hologram of Earth dimmed. Just like that, humanity's fate was decided. The Valeri Demonian received the assignment with mild interest. Admiral Cale Varoon stood on the bridge of the ascendant measure, gazing at a tactical projection of the Sol system. His species was tall and elegant, skin marked with symmetrical bioluminescent lines that pulsed softly with emotion. Right now, those lines glowed calm blue. "Assessment?" he asked. "Single-star system, no gate nexus, limited fleet dispersion. Defensive doctrine appears reactive, not proactive." Cale nodded. "Standard pacification, then." "Yes, Admiral." The Valeri did not consider themselves conquerors. They were administrators of order. Chaos, after all, was inefficient. When the Valeri fleet translated into Sol space, their arrival eclipsed Earth's skies. Silver hulls reflected sunlight like blades. Gravitic wakes rippled through orbital lanes, knocking satellites off alignment without a single hostile action. They broadcast one message: clear, calm, unyielding. Surrender authority, pay tribute, maintain internal autonomy under Valeri law. On Earth, panic followed. Governments convened emergency sessions, markets froze, military commands scrambled to assess impossible odds. Some argued compliance was survival, others whispered about resistance. But humanity had never agreed on anything easily. That disagreement was not weakness, it was precedent. 3 hours later, Earth replied, not from one nation, but from all of them. The message was short, human, unmistakable. Earth declines. On the bridge of the ascendant measure, silence followed, then quiet amusement. "They refused?" Cell asked. Cale's bioluminescence flickered brighter. "Yes." "Should we escalate?" Cale considered the spinning blue planet. "No," he said, "we will educate." The Valeri seized Luna within hours. No weapons fire, just orbital dominance and command override. Martian installations were neutralized by remote system infiltration. Human fleets that attempted formation were gently but decisively disarmed. It was almost disappointing. And yet, something strange happened. Human ships didn't charge, they scattered. Civilian craft cut engines and drifted into asteroid shadows. Military vessels powered down and vanished from sensors entirely. Some ships altered trajectories in ways that made no strategic sense. "Where are they going?" Cell asked. Cale frowned. "They are not retreating," he said slowly. They watched human vessels disappear one by one into the dark. And for the first time since leaving Valeri space, Admiral Cale Varoon felt uncertainty. The Valeri Dominion was built on predictability. Every species they had ever subdued followed the same arc: shock, fear, submission, order, compliance, stability. Humanity did not follow the arc. 3 days after the occupation of Luna, the Dominion logistics network began to experience anomalies, not attacks, errors. Cargo shipments arrived late, or not at all. Navigation beacons drifted by fractions too small to trigger alerts, but large enough to compound over distance. Communication relays repeated packets, then dropped them entirely, as if confused by their own existence. On the bridge of the ascendant measure, Tactical Officer Cell adjusted her console with growing irritation. "Admiral, our supply corridor to the outer system is desynchronizing." Cale looked up. "Mechanical failure?" "No," Cell replied. "Manual interference. Someone is changing variables faster than our correction algorithms can adapt." Cale studied the data streams, bioluminescent lines along his skin dimming slightly. "Humans?" he asked. "Yes," Cell replied, "but not through conventional attack." Cale leaned back, folding his long fingers together. "They are not contesting control. They are contesting assumptions." That unsettled him more than open hostility would have. Humanity had learned something early. They could not win a war of force, so they chose a war of friction. Mining drones, once designed to harvest asteroids, were reprogrammed to drift harmlessly until a Valeri ship passed close enough for the drone's mass to become a kinetic nightmare.
Old satellites, long abandoned and forgotten, were quietly reactivated, their outdated transmitters flooding specific frequencies with nonsense at exactly the wrong times. Human ships stopped broadcasting identifiers, stopped responding to hails, stopped behaving like military assets at all. They became ghosts. In the asteroid belt, a Valari patrol frigate followed a faint sensor echo, something small, slow, insignificant. Then the echo split into dozens. The frigate never fired a shot. Its own maneuvering thrusters failed as its navigation data updated itself into contradiction. Momentum carried it into a field of tumbling rock and ice. The explosion was brief, silent. Humanity marked the event as a delay. The Valari logged it as an incident. Neither captured what was happening. Admiral Kale convened a command council. These tactics are inefficient.
Human media did not broadcast rage. It broadcast resolve. "We've been invaded before," one voice said, "by nature, by history, by ourselves. We survived worse." Kale watched one recording longer than he intended. A human child, barely matured, stood beside a cracked pressure dome on Luna, holding a patch kit too large for her small hands. "We fix things," she said to the camera. "That's what humans do." Kale turned the feed off. Something inside him tightened. The Valari escalated. Orbital control tightened. Human access to jump lanes was restricted. Automated enforcement platforms were deployed above population centers, not to fire, but to remind. The message was clear: comply. Humanity responded by getting quieter. Their ships went colder, their emissions dropped, their networks fragmented into localized cells that operated independently, sharing data only when necessary. Valari analysts struggled. "There is no central command," Cell reported. "Disrupting one node does not affect the others." Kale exhaled slowly. They are not fighting as a state, he realized. They are fighting as a species. That realization came too late for Patrol Group 7. The Valari ships entered a debris field near Jupiter, cleared according to charts. Their sensors showed nothing unusual. Then gravity changed. Human mass drivers, built from repurposed industrial equipment, activated simultaneously, nudging debris into precise trajectories. The Valari formation broke. One ship lost orientation, another collided while attempting correction. Human vessels emerged, not to finish the kill, but to extract something. Survivors. Boarding footage showed humans moving through smoke-filled corridors, mag boots clanking, visors cracked, oxygen alarms blaring. They bypassed weapon lockers. They went straight for the wounded. On Luna, Dr. Mara Chen did not know the alien on her table was Valari. At first, she thought it was a machine. Its exoskeleton had been torn open by decompression, revealing fragile inner tissue glowing faintly with bioluminescent patterns gone erratic. Her hands moved on instinct. "Vitals dropping," someone said. "Then stop talking and hand me the sealant," Mara replied. "But now." She worked for 6 hours. When the alien stabilized, the room went quiet. Someone finally asked the question everyone had been thinking. Why save it? Mara wiped blood from her gloves. Because if we only save humans, then we're not defending humanity. We're abandoning it. The Valari regained consciousness hours later. Confusion flooded its compound eyes. Weapons were absent, restraints non-existent. Mara leaned into its field of view. "You're safe. You were hurt. We fixed you." The alien tried to speak. Translation lagged. "Why?" it finally asked. Mara smiled tiredly. "Because you're alive." The recording spread.
through human networks, through Valeri channels, through the Galactic Council's observation arrays, and for the first time since the war began, the laughter stopped. The Council convened an emergency review. "This is irregular," the Gravemind elder rumbled. "They aid enemy combatants." The Lyrian archivist shimmered with unease. "They do not distinguish between soldier and person." "Dangerous," Vethrix hissed. "Sentiment compromises order." Yet none could deny the data. Human resistance did not intensify with oppression. It adapted. It softened in places where cruelty was expected. It hardened where exploitation was attempted. And always, always, it protected civilians, including alien ones. Admiral Kale Varun stood alone on the observation deck of his flagship, staring at Earth's distant glow. His bioluminescence dimmed to a thoughtful violet. "They don't want to win," he murmured. "They want to end it." Sel approached quietly. "Admiral, command suggests escalation, a decisive show of force." Kale closed his eyes. He had studied countless civilizations. He had pacified dozens. He knew the cost of disobedience and the cost of obedience. He said, "Delay implementation." Sel's eyes widened. "Admiral, that would constitute—" "I know exactly what it constitutes. Buy me time." Sel swallowed. "For what purpose?" Kale turned toward the stars. "To see if humans are what they claim to be." On Earth, the pressure was felt immediately. Valeri enforcement platforms moved lower in orbit. Power restrictions tightened. Food shipments were delayed for inspection. Medical supplies vanished into bureaucratic limbo. Human networks adjusted. They always adjusted. Old rivalries meant nothing now. Former enemies shared resources. Underground transport routes reopened. Paths once used for crime, now used for survival. And through it all, people kept choosing to help. In a flooded coastal city, a human engineer rerouted emergency power to a Valeri-controlled hospital, knowing it would expose his position. Valeri troops arrived within minutes. They expected resistance. They found him still working. "Why?" a Valeri officer demanded through translation. The engineer didn't look up. "Because the generator doesn't care who you are, and neither does the water." The officer hesitated, then ordered his troops to help. That footage spread too, not as propaganda, as proof. Dr. Mara Chen received a visitor 3 days later. The Valeri she had saved stood at the entrance of her makeshift clinic, posture awkward, bioluminescence muted. "I was told you would be here," it said carefully. Mara looked up from her work, surprised. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "It's not safe." "I know," the Valeri replied. "That is why I came." It hesitated. "You saved my life." Mara nodded. "That's my job." The alien lowered itself, an unmistakable gesture of respect. "In the Dominion, lives are calculated. Yours are chosen." Mara didn't answer right away. Finally, she said, "We choose each other. That's the difference." The Valeri left without another word, but it carried that sentence with it. The first true fracture within the Dominion occurred a week later.
A Valeri strike group received orders to bombard a human agricultural complex classified as logistics support infrastructure. The commanding officer reviewed the data. Population density, high. Military value, negligible. He hesitated. Then he refused. The refusal spread, not loudly, quietly. Command delays, requests for clarification, reinterpretations of orders. Admiral Kale watched it happen in real time. "They're thinking," Sel said softly. "Yes," Kale replied, "and that terrifies the Council."
The Council's response was swift. Override authority was issued. The bombardment would proceed. Human sensors detected the buildup hours before impact. Evacuation alerts spread, but there wasn't enough time. People ran anyway, not in panic, but purpose. Firefighters stayed behind to stabilize structures. Medics refused extraction. Civilians formed human chains to move the injured. Human ships launched, not to attack, but to shield. Old freighters, patched shuttles, even private yachts burned hard for orbit, positioning themselves between the bombardment fleet and the surface. Admiral Cale stared at the tactical display. "They're using themselves as armor," Sel whispered. Cale felt something break inside his chest. "That's not strategy," he said. "That's faith." The bombardment order blinked. Active. Seconds from execution. Cale stepped forward. "Countermand," he said. Sel froze. "Sir, I will take responsibility." The bridge went silent. Cale's bioluminescence flared, not in command blue, but in something older, defiant. "Transmit stand down," he ordered. Sel obeyed. The Valeri fleet powered down its weapons. The human ships held position. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, human vessels withdrew. No cheers, no taunts, just quiet retreat. They trusted him. The weight of that trust crushed Cale. The Council erupted. "You defied Council mandate," Vethrix roared. Cale stood before them via hologram, posture straight. "Yes," he said, "I did. You jeopardized order. I preserved meaning." The Gravemind elder leaned forward. "Explain." Cale took a breath. "They fight without certainty of victory. They protect without expectation of reward. They sacrifice not for dominance, but for continuity." "Hiss! Sentiment," Vethrix hissed. Cale's gaze hardened. "No," he said, "identity." The archivist shimmered brighter. "You are suggesting they are different." Cale nodded. "They are not dangerous because of their weapons," he said. "They are dangerous because of their values." Silence fell, because every civilization there understood the implication. Values spread. On Earth, humanity did not celebrate. They rebuilt. They mourned. They kept going. And across the galaxy, something ancient stirred. Not fear, not awe, but recognition. The stand-down above Earth did not end the war. It ended the illusion. Across the Galactic Council's domains, observers replayed the same footage again and again. Human civilian ships, unarmed, obsolete, fragile, placing themselves between planetary populations and orbital annihilation. No species doctrine contained a response for that. The Council convened under emergency authority. The chamber felt smaller now, heavier. Counselor Vethrix struck the dais with a chitinous limb, the sound echoing like a snapped bone. "This is untenable," he hissed. "The Valeri Dominion has failed its mandate. Humanity must be neutralized decisively before this behavior spreads." The Lyrian archivist pulsed uneasily. "You speak as if ideas are contagions." "They are," Vethrix snapped, "and humans are carriers." The Gravemind elder remained silent longer than usual. When it finally spoke, its voice rolled through the chamber like tectonic shift. "What if the contagion is necessary?" The chamber froze. Vethrix turned. "You question the foundation of council authority?" "I question whether authority that fears compassion deserves to endure," the elder replied. No one laughed, because somewhere in the silence they all felt it. The galaxy was changing. The Council issued its final directive, Operation Final Compliance. If humanity could not be ruled, it would be broken. The weapon was not a fleet. It was a system, an ancient failsafe embedded in Council infrastructure, older than many member species. A lattice of gravitic harmonics designed to destabilize planetary cores, not instantly, not explosively, but inevitably. Earth would be rendered uninhabitable within decades. No spectacle, no martyrdom, just quiet extinction. The weapon activated, and the galaxy held its breath. Admiral Kale Varun learned of the activation seconds after it began. The data hit his console like a physical blow. Planetary stress indicators, mantle resonance, irreversible cascade. Council authorization? Cell asked, already knowing the answer. Yes, Kale hollowly said. Silence consumed the bridge. They'll never know what killed them, Cell whispered. Kale stared at Earth, at the blue world that refused to surrender. They will, he said. How? Because they will feel it coming. Kale straightened. Open all channels, he ordered. Human, Council, civilian, everything. Cell hesitated. Admiral, this is treason. Kale's bioluminescence glowed steady and bright. So was saving them. On Earth, the planet itself screamed, not audibly, but through earthquakes, tidal surges, atmospheric distortion. Scientists realized the truth within minutes. There was no evacuation possible, no countermeasure. Human leaders gathered. For the first time in their history, there was no argument, only resolve. Ambassador Elias Rowe stood before a global assembly, leaders, civilians, soldiers, children watching from shelters in broken cities. We cannot stop this, he said plainly, but we can choose how we answer it. Admiral Kale's signal broke through then, projected above every screen. He spoke without ceremony. The Council has chosen your extinction, Kale said. I have defied them. I will not survive this. Rowe met his gaze across impossible distance. Then speak, Rowe said, so the galaxy hears you. Kale nodded, and humanity made its choice. Human ships launched from every port, not warships, everything. Freighters, research vessels, colony ships half-finished. Stations broke orbit, tearing themselves free despite structural damage. They did not flee, they converged, towards the gravitic lattice, towards the weapon killing their world. Valeri forces attempted interception. Humans ignored them. They broadcast one message: if Earth dies, you will die alone. But it was not a threat, it was a promise of responsibility. Dr. Mara Chen was on board a medical transport when the order came, not to evacuate,
To assist alien populations destabilized by the lattice's collateral effects. You're leaving Earth? Someone asked her. Mara shook her head. No, she said softly. I'm carrying it with me. Human crews rerouted power to shield alien worlds. They absorbed gravitational shock waves meant for planets they had never seen. Human ships burned out their drives to stabilize stars that were not theirs. They died doing it. Thousands, millions, and they did not stop. The Council watched in horror. They're dismantling the lattice, the archivist whispered, manually, with their own ships. That will kill them, Vethrix screeched. Yes, the Gravemind elder said, it will. Vethrix turned in disbelief. Then why do they do it? The elder's stone eyes glowed faintly. Because, it said, they have already decided who they are. The lattice failed. Not cleanly, but enough. Earth's core stabilized, scarred, wounded, alive. Humanity had saved itself, and everyone else, at the cost of more lives than the Council had ever risked for any cause. Admiral Kale's flagship drifted powerless. He watched Earth's signal fade, then steady. Cell knelt beside him. We did it, she whispered. Kale smiled faintly. Yes, he said, they did.
The Council's authority shattered that day, not by rebellion, by example. The galaxy did not celebrate when the lattice fell. There were no victory songs, no declarations of triumphs echoing across star systems. What followed instead was something far rarer and far more unsettling. Silence. Across Council space, worlds stabilized as the gravitic cascade dissipated. Planets that should have cracked apart instead endured, their skies bruised but intact. Stars returned to equilibrium, trade lanes slowly reopened, and everywhere, on every channel, every archive, every historical relay, the same recordings played. Human ships burning themselves apart to shield alien worlds. Human voices steady as they died so others could live. Humanity choosing everyone. The council chamber reconvened 3 cycles later. The seats were the same. The chamber was not. Councillor Vethrix arrived late. His chitinous form looked diminished, mandibles chipped, ceremonial plating stripped away. He did not take his usual place of prominence. The Gravemind Elder was already present, unmoving like a continent. The Lyran Archivist shimmered weakly, her light patterns subdued. When the presiding voice spoke, its tones lacked their former certainty. "This session convenes under historic review," it intoned. "The Council acknowledges catastrophic misjudgment regarding the sole civilization known as humanity." No one objected. "The Valyri Dominion is hereby released from enforcement authority. All protectorate claims against Earth are nullified." Vethrix hissed quietly, but said nothing. The archivist spoke instead. "We observed them for war, but they taught us something else." The Gravemind Elder leaned forward. "They showed us the cost of order without conscience." Silence followed. Then the presiding voice spoke words no one had ever heard before. "The Council accepts responsibility." Those words rippled outward, recorded forever, because empires rarely apologized. On Earth, the sky was still blue. Scarred, yes, changed. The planet bore the marks of what had nearly been lost. Fractured fault lines, altered tides, cities rebuilt from memory and ash. But it lived. Humanity mourned its dead. Names were read for days, faces displayed across continents. No rank separated soldier from civilian, engineer from doctor, pilot from poet. They were all remembered the same way, as humans. Dr. Mara Chen stood at a memorial overlooking the sea, the wind carrying salt and quiet. A Valyri figure stood beside her, no longer armored, no longer a soldier. "You saved my people," it said softly. Mara shook her head. "No," she replied. "We just refused to decide who mattered." The Valyri bowed deeply. That gesture would spread across its species. Admiral Kale Varun survived. Barely. He was brought before a special tribunal, not as a criminal, but as a witness. They asked him one question. "Why did you betray the Council?" Kale considered it carefully. "I did not betray order. I discovered something higher than it." "And what was that?" they asked. Kale's bioluminescence glowed faintly, human blue, borrowed unconsciously. Choice. The tribunal dissolved shortly thereafter. The Valyri Dominion changed its doctrine within a generation. Historians would later mark that moment as the beginning of the post-Council era. Earth was invited back to the Galactic Council. This time, no one laughed. The hologram of Earth appeared once more, still small, still fragile, but now it commanded attention. Ambassador Elias Rowe stood again at the dais. He looked older, tired, but unbowed. "You are offered full membership," the presiding voice said, "with voting authority, trade rights, defense accords." Rowe listened. Then he surprised them. "We decline," he said gently. A ripple of shock passed through the chamber. "We will participate," Rowe continued. "We will cooperate. We will help rebuild what was broken. But we will not rule, and we will not be ruled." The archivist shimmered brighter. "You have that right. You earned it." Rowe nodded. "Then let us stand as equals, not because we are powerful, but because we are responsible." The council accepted, because there was no other choice. Humanity did not become an empire. It became something far stranger, a presence. Human ships began appearing wherever disaster struck, sometimes before official aid arrived, not conquering, not claiming, helping, rebuilding, staying just long enough to leave others standing on their own. Children across the galaxy learned a new phrase, human standard response. It meant compassion under pressure. It meant sacrifice without demand. It meant someone would come, even if there was nothing to gain. Centuries later, long after the old council chambers were turned into museums, a historian recorded the final verdict. They said humanity never sought dominance, never demanded worship, never asked the galaxy to kneel. They only asked one question: who needs us? And in answering it, they changed everything. Because strength could be measured, technology could be copied, but what humanity carried into the stars, that stubborn refusal to abandon others, that reckless compassion, that dangerous belief that every life mattered, that could not be controlled. And for the first time, the galaxy understood what it truly meant to be human. If this story moved you, subscribe for more human stories from the stars.